Hi everyone, welcome to this Twinmotion 2020.2 webinar. It's the first presentation of this new release. You probably already saw the trailer, but today we will be covering in more details the new feature introduced with this new version. The two main features will be the phasing tool, the new phasing tool, and also the rotators and door system, but we will just briefly cover some other features. So first off, let me start by creating a new Twinmotion project. For that, I have this ARCHICAD file, and I'm going to synchronize this file into my Twinmotion scene. So I just come to my button, Synchronize with Twinmotion. Here I'm going to start a new project with you. My project has been loaded, but as you can see, it's a bit below the starting ground present inside the Twinmotion. So I just select the starting ground and place it a bit lower. Also for this project, I have created a context, so I'll come to the import doc, and I will just load my context. So now we can get started. So I have my building, I have my project located inside my city. First thing, let me just select my grass and apply the same grass on my park over here. And what I also want to do is just apply another material to my road. So I will come to the material, ground, man-made, and just going to just add a basic asphalt material to have something a bit more realistic. So yes, now let's start to talk about what's new in this new release. First off, we completely reworked the phasing tool. In the past, we used to have present on the right over here, when you click on the statistic, you can switch to the phasing tool. Now it has been renamed as scene state. For the record scene state, just remember the state, hide and unhide of object inside your scene. So for example, I can create a state, which will remember the state visible of all the objects present inside my scene. And now I can, for example, just hide some part of my project, like, let me just maybe switch that down. Let me just randomly hide some of the layers over here. And here I can create a new state, and I can switch from the different states. So as you can see, it turns the visibility of some object on and off. So this was the old phasing tool. It's remained inside Twinmotion. It has just been renamed as scene states. Now the new phasing is present inside the media doc. So we'll come to the media doc, and here we have the new phasing tool. To create a new phasing, it's a bit similar to when you create a media. You just click on the big plus button. It creates a media with a first phase, which will be the starting point of your phasing. Now the phasing tool presents the phase on a timeline, like you can see over here, to better help you present like the construction steps of your project. So for example, here, by default, the starting date of your project will be the start date of when you are creating your Twinmotion file, but you can of course customize that by changing the date. You can also disable the date, and you can use this phasing tool without any time involved if you want to present, for example, different design option of your project instead of showing a construction phasing. So today I want to actually show you a construction phasing, so I'll just switch back to the date. As you can see here, we have September, October, November, we have different months. You can just use the zoom in and zoom out option to visualize less or more time. You can also use this list over here to switch to visualize directly days, months, weeks, etc. So let's get started and start to work on our phase. So when I created a phase, when I created my first phasing, it started with a phase number 1. If I want to edit this phase, I will just click on this phase. The phase will be highlighted in this white outline over here. And now I can start to hide some object inside my scene graph. So actually, what I will do is just, let me just collapse all the folders so I have a better view at the hierarchy of my file. By the way, if you want to have your hierarchy present like I have here, In ARCHICAD, what I did is, in the plugin, in the settings of my plugin, I switched to the no merge option. That means that I will retrieve all the layers I have set up in my ARCHICAD file. So for example, here, if I come to Document, and if I open my layers, all the visible layers has been exported to Twinmotion, and I can retrieve this same hierarchy. So back in Twinmotion, I have all my layers present in my scene graph. So first, what I want to do is just make almost everything invisible and present like the first step of my project, which is basically digging the hole in the ground. So what I will do is just select everything, I will hide everything, and now I need to just make visible the terrain, which is this layer here, and which the second one is this one. So here, my first phase contains only the road and the terrain. Now if I want to create a new phase, which may contain we can start to show the foundation, for example, I can click on the plus button. It will create a new phase directly after the first one. And in this new phase, I will select it. It will be outlined in white. And now in this phase, I can make visible, for example, my foundation. And now if I select my timeline, I can switch from the phase number 1 to phase number 2. Let's do that a couple of times. So I will create a new phase. As you can see, also you can create different tracks. For example, you can leave a track to, let's say, the different industry. So for example, this second track here will be focusing on the slabs. And let me start to show some slabs. So I will come to the structural slab, and I don't want all of them to be present at once. So I'm just going to hide everything except from the basement slab. And I will rename this track slabs. Next thing I want to do is now, so after the slabs of the basement, what I will do is again create a new phase, and on this one I will start to visualize the ground floor. And after that, I want to start to visualize, to enable to show the steel frame, the structure of the building itself. So I will create a new track by simply just dragging my face down. I just created this new track, and in this new track I will rename it steel frame. In this phase, what I will do is now make visible the steel frame, and I'm just going, same as before, I'm just going to visualize the ground floor of my structure, like here. So here I start to have my phasing. It starts with the hole, the foundation, it starts with the slabs at the bottom, then the slabs of the ground floor. Now we start to see the structure, and I can now create a new phase, which will be again in the slabs track. And here I will just make visible a new slab. So we'll come over here, and again coming back to the slab, and just make this slab visible. And let me do that a couple of times. Let me just remove my steel frame over here, steel frame level 2, etc. So here I basically start to visualize the construction step of my project. Let me actually come closer and apply some material to have a better look. So we have some nice metal on the structure. We can also add some concrete, a bit rough concrete on the different slabs. So now we can start to have a view on the different steps of my construction. Now let's start to add some construction vehicles. So if I add a construction vehicle, if I want, let's say I want to add a construction vehicle into just one specific phase, I need first to select the phase. So let me just, for example, come to the phase where the structure starts to be visible. I will select my phase. And now on this track, what I want to do is just add like a crane. So I'll select my crane and just drag and drop my crane inside my scene. The crane is present inside my scene graph, as you can see here, but it has just been added visible inside this phase. If I come back to my phasing and switch to another phase, the crane won't be visible. What I can also do is create a track which will be dedicated to this crane, for example. So let me rename this track crane. In this track, I will create a new phase, which will remain present over multiple other phases. So for example, I want the crane to be present at the end of December over here, where we finish the slabs of the ground floor. So I'll select my phase, switch it, make it snapping to the start of December over here. Here I can expand my phase up to, let's say, June next year. And in this specific phase, what I will do is just make everything invisible except for my crane. And now if I come back to my timeline over here, we can see that my crane will start to appear at the start of the phase 4 over here, and my crane will be present over all those phases. And after June 4, after the beginning of June, basically everything will, my crane won't be present anymore. Similar process, if I want to add, for example, characters or other vehicles, I just need to come over here. Let's type worker over here to have all the characters in working clothes. What I will do here is just select my phase, select multiple characters, and I will just multi-drop inside my viewport to add randomly some character to my scene. So those characters has been added just onto phase number 4. Now I can do the same thing with phase number 5 if I want. I can also add character to multiple phases at once, or characters or objects, of course. So for example, I can select phase number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I make a multi-selection of phase. And now let's come back, for example, to our construction vehicles over here, and I can just drag and drop a couple of vehicles like those one over here. Now those vehicle has been added to all the different phases I have here. Actually, also, those vehicles are brand new to this new update. We completely rework all the vehicles just to push them to the next generation in terms of quality. When you select a vehicle, let me just hit this media mode over here and make one truck visible. Yes. So when you select one of those trucks, for example, you have two different options. The first option will be to change the color. So you can just change the color of the truck to match, if you're working with a specific company, you can match the design of this company. And also you can choose your own logo. So if you have a logo here, you can choose to add your custom, your company logo directly on all those vehicles. In this new folder, in this new construction machine folder, so we have added plenty of different trucks, both European and American truck. We have also added some construction vehicles like the wheel loader. Here we have a rotary drill that can be added. We have a crane, a track loader animated, an excavator on tracks, but also an excavator on wheels, and one animated version. So this is just a view at some of the new assets, and really the focus here was really to have some really high quality assets, just to have a better realism when showing the construction steps of your project. So after that, let me just hide everything. After that, in this new release, so this was a quick look at the phasing. We have a dedicated tutorial on how to create a phasing using this new tool on our YouTube channel, so you can have a look at that. So now let's have a look at one new tool also, which is the new Smart Door system. So I came over here inside my project, and here I have my wall with the hole present for the doors. So we've created a new folder inside the library present under the objects, which is the doors. We have two types of door, rotating and sliding, and in each folder we have the same design, but in both simple and double rotating way. So let's start by drag and dropping in my scene the simple rotating number 1. As you can see here, as soon as my door enters my project, we have this blue box that appears in my hole. We have created basically a smart placing tool that will analyze the geometry surrounding your project, surrounding where you are inside your scene, and it will analyze the best place to fit your project. So for example, here, it analyzes that the door might be placed over here, but it won't, because it's too big, so it's highlighted in red. Here, when it's highlighted in blue, that means that the door will fit, and the door will automatically be resized to fit the hole in the wall. So here, as soon as I release my mouse, the door will be automatically placed in its correct position, and all the settings will be automatically changed to fit the correct position. The doors are what we call smart doors. That means that they react to first the camera. So when you navigate, when you arrive near a door, the door will automatically open. But it also reacts to characters. So for example, here, if I create a path of characters, the door will automatically open when a character is nearby the door, and when the character comes away, the door will automatically close. So let's check a few options on the doors. There is plenty of them actually. The first one is the style. So even after you choose the style from the library, you can still change the style. So we can switch from the simple rotating number 1, the style number 1, to style number 2, and so on. Once you choose the style, you can customize first the material by simply drag and dropping some material on it. So for example, if I want this door to be like in metal, I can just drag and drop this material on my door like that. Next thing I can do is change, let's check over the more of the style. We can here change the handle style. We can disable the hinge and the casing if the casing was already present in your 3D model. Then you can change the behavior. So maybe it's triggered, maybe it's always open, maybe it's always closed. You can change the trigger radius. So if you want the door to open just when you are 1 meter away, for example, if you have like a tight corridor, you don't want to open a door when we have just people walking in the corridor, so we can just change the radius of the trigger. Then you can choose what is triggering the opening of the door, so the camera, characters, and the custom path actors. Then we can switch which side it's opening. So here I prefer to open on this side over here. And here in the more, we can change if the door is inward or outward, and you can choose the opening angle. Next, we have, you can customize the size of the door, so you can customize the width and the height, but using the smart door, it will be automatically fitted in the correct position. You can just tweak that if you want. I think that's basically it for the doors. If I switch back to the door and now drag a sliding door, it will be the same idea, but with just different settings. So for example, you can still customize the style of the door. Once you choose the style, you can, same thing, change the trigger, change the side the door is opening, and you can choose the translation offset of the door. So just a few different options, but it works exactly the same way. So next thing after the doors, I want to talk a bit about the new animator system. To do that, let me maybe first start with an animator present inside Twinmotion. So I'll come to the tools, animators, and here we have two different animators, which is similar to the doors. We have the animators that will be in rotation and the animators in translation. So if I start, for example, with the translation, we have the default tool, which is not linked to any object. And then we have just a couple of example or use case. So for example, I can just drag this industrial gate inside my scene. And this gate, similar as my door, will open automatically when the camera starts to arrive in the trigger radius. This gate, it's basically your own object that you have inside your scene. Let me just, to better show you that, what I will do is import a file and show you how you can animate your own object. So I'll come to the import doc and I will just look for my own object. Located over here, objects. I can start with maybe like a wind turbine. My wind turbine, what I need to do is import it as a keep hierarchy because I've already set up a correct hierarchy in my 3D model. So here I have my wind turbine. Of course, it doesn't fit really well, this project. We shouldn't have a wind turbine in the middle of a city like that, but it's just to give you an example. So my wind turbine is composed of two different objects. We have this part over here, and then we have the helix, which should be spinning. So what I will do here is come in my library under the rotator. I will come over here into near the pivot point of my helix, and I will simply drag my rotator at approximately the correct position of the pivot point of my object. Now what I will do is just change the axe orientation, so it's spinning over this axe right now. And what I will do here simply is to select my link tool and click on my helix. Now my helix will start to spin based on the settings defined in my doc. So first, the angle should be 360 because it should be just spinning and spinning. And the animation should not be ping pong, it should be loop. So I'm just going to switch to the loop animation. And now I've created my wind turbine. Maybe it's a bit too fast, so let me just select back that and just maybe switch to 0.2. So as you can see over here inside my scene graph, when you use the link tool, basically it's select the object and add this object as a children of your rotator. So you can also manually disable this animation by just moving this object out of the hierarchy of my rotator, or you can also just drag it back in. So this is the first example. Now let's come inside our project and I will show you another example. So I'll come again to the import doc, and here I will basically use a folding screen. Same thing here, I will select the keep hierarchy option to keep the hierarchy I have in my model. So I've imported my file. It's a bit far away, so let me just move it near where we are over here. Let me just also place it in the correct position, something like that. It's a bit too big, so what I will do is just select the two different geometry and make a scale on them. Actually, never mind. I will just, we just keep with this scale. Don't really matter. What I will do is put my folded screen up against my wall and also up against my ceiling. So the animation we should have with this folding screen is this one. The folding screen should just be going down like that. So what I will do is start with the starting point of my folding screen, which should be closed like that. Now I'll come back to my translator. I will drag and drop my translator in my project. Right now the translator is facing up, but I want my object to go down, so let me just change the orientation so it's going down like that. And same thing here, I will select my link tool and click on my object. So now my translator is just making my object going down. I don't want the animation to go ping pong like that. Here I just want the animation to play once. And here it will going down and it will basically just stop. Also, this animation, when you will export a movie, a media, a video, this animation will be triggered at the start of your video. So you can have your video like that start with the object collapsed, and it will just go down when you start to visualize the video. And you can also, of course, make it a trigger. So when you come close to the folding screen, it will automatically comes down. So this was just two examples at how to use the animators, but there is plenty of different use cases. In the library, we have different examples, but you can use that with your own objects. Next thing, we have some new vegetation. So if I come in my vegetation and landscape folder, and I will come on the trees, and at the bottom of the trees, we have added 15 new trees, all of them in 3 ages and 4 seasons. So here is some example of the new tree that has been added with this new version. All those three, like always, they react to the Twinmotion ecosystem. And if I come, for example, here, you can just switch the season, and we can have some of them have some really nice flowers like that. So this is one of my favorite one, like the Indian sandalwood. Just really like the way that the leaves are placed on the tree. It's not too dense, it's not too subtle, so it's definitely one of my favorite tree that we have added in this new version. After the vegetation, some work has been done regarding the weather effect. So if I come over here into the weather, and when you start to have some cloud that appear, it will start to rain. Sorry, we are in fall, in spring, and now in summer, so it starts to rain, not to snow. And we just made some changes at the way that the puddle are behaving, are be present inside the scene, just to have something a bit more realistic. So yeah, just to enhance the quality of the materials, the weather effect. Also, we have completely reworked the water material, so you can have a look at that near the bottom of the materials library. So we've made some changes over the water materials. So I don't have a pool inside this project, but you can see that in the release trailer, it has been definitely enhanced compared to what we have in the past. Finally, the last thing I want to show you is some of the new assets, and for that I'm going to switch to another project. Let me just open something a bit different this time. So you can see here, just switched to a different project, which is this airport over here. So in this new release of Twinmotion, we have also reworked some of the aircraft that we have inside the software. So let me just remove some of them out of the way. Actually, the scene is a bit crowded over here. Let me also remove this custom path over here. Yeah, we have a bit more space right now. So in this new release, we have added some new and reworked some old planes. You can find them directly inside the library over here. So we have some big plane like those one over here. We have also some smaller one like some jets, and we have also an helicopter. And all those new vehicles can be fully customized. So when you, let's start with, for example, this one over here. When you select one of those objects, you can just change different part of the aircraft. You can change the color of the different parts like that. So upper, lower color, tail, engine, and you can turn the light on and off. So especially useful at night. And it also reacts to decals. So for example, here, if I just place a decal on the side of my plane and just we just load my own logo. Just going to change the offset. So I can, you can just basically customize and add your own texture, your own logo, and it won't cover like all the window. It will be just applied to the body, to the fuselage. Not sure of the English term, sorry for that. But yeah, you can customize the aircraft with your own company logo if you want. And same thing as the work we've done with the construction machine. Here, the idea was just to push the quality to. We want really to raise the quality of all the assets that we have inside Twinmotion, and really we are taking the time to just take all the assets that we have and just pushing them to the next generation, really, in terms of quality. So I think that's it for this presentation of Twinmotion 2020.2. I think that now it's time for some question and answer. So we can go in the chat. Feel free to ask all the questions that we have, and we will take some time to answer your questions. And